Alright, so let's get it, and we'll take a look at the Queen's Indian in this video. And I thought a good bit about the different ways to play against the Queen's Indian, and a lot of the options, I should say, have a fianchetto. And so far in this repertoire, we haven't had any fianchetto situations, and I wanted to stick to that theme. So we're going to recommend the Petrosian variation against the Queen's Indian and try to keep some thematic overlap with our structure. So we got a few lines to cover here, and we're going to come back to the Benoni style lines first with C5, and sticking to our themes in the past, we play D5. Now Queen C2, and don't be afraid about them grabbing on D5, as we've got Queen E4 check with the sauce. Gotta enjoy that. And after G6, we have time to set up a structure that's familiar. That's a little bit different with H4. You could go with a more reserved H3, but we're following a game from 2018 with two elite players. H4 is interesting, and we'll see how White elected to play this game a bit differently, going after the D6 pawn. And very creative game by a strong player, and it ended quite abruptly with 23 knight H4, as there's no way to stave off the devastating mate threat. So coming back, hopefully you've gotten the other videos down with the King's Indian and the Benoni, because you're familiar with that structure. You should be very comfortable. Now, Bishop A6 is the next investigation that we should go to with Queen C2, and it should be noted that after C5, D5 directly transposes to the line we just looked at. And if D5 immediately here, takes, knight C3, and G3 is what I have here, but very much Bishop F4 or Bishop G5. There's a lot of flexibility with how to play this position overall, and I like this line for White as well, following a game from 2020. And last but definitely not least, after Queen C2, they bring the bishop back and then play C5. And here, the lines with D5 can get nasty and theoretical, so I decided to recommend something solid where White retains just a slight edge. We're going to capture, go Bishop F4, and lo and behold, we have the structure that we've seen time and again in this repertoire without any issues, and we look to press in the near future. So coming back, we've got our main line now with the immediate Bishop B7. And if Black waits around here, say if he plays a move like Bishop E7, well, we will play D5 to shut down the eye of the bishop on B7, and we'll be in good shape. So that's why it's important for Black to play D5 to prevent that idea. Takes. And here, if you're looking for a solid alternative, E3 is completely fine, where we get a solid position. Really no issues. Or you can go for it more with Queen C2, takes, and E4, where we're getting a position that has that thematic overlap with our Grunfeld pawn center. If C5, Bishop D3 will transpose to our main line. So castles, Bishop D3, C5, castles. And I feel like this position begins to get important. We've built the structure. Now, how do we play here? One, most of our attack is built up on the fact that we have a queen. So if C takes D4, we would like to take with a pawn and maintain the integrity of our central pawn mass. So Queen E2 is twofold: getting the queen off of the X-ray, and two, keeping an eye on the A6 square. We'd like our bishop and queen for attacking purposes later. Now, when I looked in the database, I was shocked that Black was doing so well here against all of the positions where white goes all out and attacks on the king side. And I've never been a big fan of recommending those positions to my students. Unless you have an all or nothing mentality when playing chess, I find it's very, very difficult to win on demand. Some players like Tao were naturally gifted with playing those, but I definitely, personally, do not fall in that category and feel uncomfortable when I have to go all out. So I looked for different options here, and I really liked this solid move, a4. We have built a wall, a structure, if you will, and we're saying, come at me. That's it. a4 gives us the idea to be able to play bishop a3, and it puts the question to black that, are you going to try to win this game? Sometimes the best course of action is patience, and your opponent will impale themselves for you. So rook a c8, rook d1, slow improvement of our position, h3, and here we're seeing in this game already where you have two players that are 2450-ish FIDE from 2021. And this next move is black just finished development. He wants to win, respect. But this next move already does it for him. e5 is a big issue, and white already takes an advantage with d5, where I have a protected pass pawn forever. Same theme from the Grunfeld. When I get that protected pawn on d5, I'm typically much better. We'll see that game in just a moment, but first, what about knight f6? We continue with bishop d2, a5, a6, and notice how white really didn't have to do anything. Black created the issues, and we're just improving our pieces. b5, and after f5, a little bit of trades with the tactics, and a draw was agreed in this correspondence game, but overall theme, if I can just set my structure and just slowly improve, no risk. Let the other guy beat himself for you. So in this over-the-board game, we'll see it firsthand. Black got a little froggy, played e5, and let's see white slowly improve and get the most out of his position. If you're going to play a4, you might as well play a5 at some point, stopping the knight from getting to the f5 square, g6, keeping an eye on the b pawn. And with slow positions, you got to be okay with maneuvering and getting your pieces to good squares. And that's going to do it. Knight takes h4. All of white's pieces are working here in harmony. And after takes, things are definitely falling apart. Bishop c2 with the devastating discoveries. And it's fun to play the type of move like after knight f6, rook takes h5, double check and mate. You don't get to say that very often. Is that a double mate? We'll count it. So overall with the Queen's Indian, we're back to these Benoni-esque flavor positions, and shouldn't be too concerned with that from our experience. Can go with h4, or if you want to go with the Mr. Natural e3, h3 stuff, have at it. Only difference here is with this bishop still on a6, we can't just simply play e3, and that's why the plan is a little bit different with h4. Then we have the lines with bishop a6, and the key idea here is not d5, but d takes c5, where we get our simple and solid structure, which we've seen time and time again. White maintains that first move advantage by just a little bit. And then with the main line overall, if they don't play d5, we would like to, but we build our big center, which is very Grunfeld-esque, and the critical move, queen e2, first not trade, and then here is the moment, a4, very solid and interesting line that says, come, come. Bishop d2 is a good follow-up, h3 is a good follow-up, and then we decide where our rooks are going to go. I feel like this is a low-risk position where white can get a great game. So that'll do it for our Queen's Indian defense.